Okay, so we are up to Osvav. We're talking about dreams, okay? What is the validity of a dream? A person has a dream, which seems to be very vivid, very real, seems to convey a message. How do we understand what our dreams are? He's going to give some explanation. We're not necessarily going to walk away with a definitive answer for ourselves, but we'll understand where dreams come from. So he says like this: Ulam rasa chachma yona lechalik hazman l'shnei chalakim. Hashem saw it fit in His wisdom to divide the portion of time into two separate periods. Echad lepola brios, one for activity of the creatures, v'echad lenuchasam, and one period for our rest. V'hainu hayom, v'halayla, the day is for activity, the night is for resting, for recharging. Ki hayom hu hazman ma'isa, v'halayla hazman hamenucha. Again, the day is the time for activity, and the night is the time for rest. V'sam b'teva habali chaim, and Hashem placed into the nature of all of creation, sheyishano, his sleep, that he'll sleep, kadesh tehelahem, that both physically and spiritually there'll be a rest. In other words, it's interesting. Normally we think of rest just for our body, but he says even our soul needs some form of rest, so there's going to be rest for our body and for our soul. And the point is that during that time, there'll be a recharging. It's going to recharge for the energy, both in its physical elements, right? When we sleep, we feel physically refreshed, but our soul is also getting refreshed. And he's going to explain a little bit how our soul gets refreshed during that time. Like, how does that happen? We know our body stops moving, and that's restful. What does it take for our soul to become rested? Like, what does it even mean? I mean, it's a hard thing to understand. V'yashuvu chadashim ukar, we wake up all new in the morning, lavodasam k'varishona, to serve God like the beginning. In other words, we feel refreshed, we feel recharged when we wake up. V'nei, behold, b'yosa adam yashen, when a person sleeps, kochosav nachas, his faculties are resting, vargashosav shketos, and his emotions are silent, vaskalaso gamke nacha v'shoketes, and one's intellect is also silent. V'rak hadimyon levado yifal v'yelech v'yidma v'yitzar yanim. It's only our imagination which is awake. It's only our imagination which does its thing. It imagines, it forms concepts. And our imagination is effective based on the things that we did and thought during the day, right? And this is common knowledge that what normally what we're dreaming about oftentimes is influenced by what we experience during the day. And now he touches upon like the science of his day. He says, all the different fumes and smokes that go to the brain, based on like some physical properties, or from foods. We know that if you eat certain foods, it could impact people. Some people tell you, I eat the, I have steaks, I have something very heavy before I go to bed. I have like very vivid dreams, or like some people have told me they have like certain vitamins, like make them have like very vivid dreams. I don't know, but the point is that people are impacted by the food they eat. This is the dreams that impact every person. Okay, let's just read one more line. We'll stop over here. However, Hashem, in addition to what's happening, that everything is silenced except for the imagination, which is doing its thing and bringing in dreams from what we experienced during the day or from what we ate, which obviously means those dreams are completely insubstantial. They're nothing. I mean, it's basically just like, reimagining and thinking about or letting our imagination run wild from what we experienced during the day, or be impacted by the chocolate cake we had right before we went to sleep. So obviously such a dream, if we would stop here, every dream should just be dismissed of completely. He says, there's something else happening when we sleep, and this now explains, although it doesn't say so explicitly, why our soul recharges when we sleep, and that is, the upper soul that we spoke about, tinatek tzas be'oso azman, separates slightly in that time, mikishureha gufanim, from its physical connections, v'chalakim imena, danu ad haruach, yumis'alim umisnatkim min haguf. Okay, so part of the soul, when we sleep, separates itself. Remember we said there's these chains. Part of the soul separates itself and connects itself to, and by separating itself from the body, what does that by definition do? It means it's more connected to the spiritual realm. Right? And so we're going to explain what the impact of that is, but now we can understand why our soul also gets recharged at night. Because our body recharges because we stop using it. That's how physical things rest, get recharged by stopping, cessation. Spiritual things get refreshed because remember, our soul is bound, is kind of stuck in our body. It doesn't belong here. And it's kind of constricted. Imagine you're you're in a place, you're in a room full of people that you hate, that bother you, that drive you crazy. Not that you hate anyone, but the point is you feel like really terrible. And then you go somewhere you feel at ease, right? That's what's happening to our soul. During when we sleep, our soul separates from the body a little bit. Okay, it's disconnected a little bit, and what that does is it brings it to a spiritual realm, and it feels recharged. It feels good because now it's where it needs to be. It's more connected to the spiritual realm, and that gives it its recharge. Okay, so it's ready to perform again during the day. That's what's happening when we sleep. We'll talk about the implications of that, of being with in the spiritual realm in a more significant way. We'll come back to that in Meretz Hashem tomorrow. But at least we understand how the idea of what the rest looks like. This is where it's coming from. There's a soul rest because of the fact that it separates from the body. Of course, that's what we say in Moda'ani, Shechzar to be nishmasi. Hashem returned our soul because our soul, when we sleep, separates partially from the body. When we wake up, it gets reconnected.